sweet peas have been busy growing all on their own over winter, but now it's time to give them a little bit of support, and you can see that they'll be starting to fall over at this point. And then we're also going to talk about pinching them out, why we want to do that and why we might not want to do that, as well as also looking at sowing a later batch. So if you haven't joined in yet, you definitely can join in. It isn't too late. I have picked up another variety that I do want to get in. And one of the things that we need to consider if you are growing a earlier sown ones and a later sown one is that if you're going to be planting them together, then it's likely that the later sown ones may succumb to things like powdery mildew that often happens to the pea family. So if you have the space and you want to make your blooms last a lot longer, because the ones that we sow earlier were going to flower earlier, but what they also will do is finish earlier as well. So if you have the space, then it is worth having a second area where you're going to plant some of your spring sown ones as well. And then these will start later, but will actually give you a bit of a later flower as well. So some of these sweet peas are looking really good, and then we have others that either haven't germinated at all, which is the same problem that we had before. It's the Dolly Varden seeds, brand new, but didn't come to anything, sadly. And then I've got others that have done really well and are ready for that little bit more attention, which is what we're going to give to them today and sort out what we need to do next. The roots are looking really good on these ones. You can also see there's plenty of more space for growth. So although it looks like there's a lot of leaf growth, it does show you that there's also plenty of compost and food space left below. These ones you can see are considerably smaller than the other ones and are much more lower in growth. These are the ones that we popped extra seeds in because none had germinated, so it was the Molly Rylestone ones that were older seeds that hadn't germinated, or maybe one had germinated, and then I popped some additional seeds in there. So they will be a little bit behind, that's completely normal, and they'll catch up before you know it. The Sylvia Grow compost seems to be the most favoured at the moment with these, which was a much lighter type of compost than the others, and it has definitely sustained them better. As you can see, they're now starting to fall over, so what we need to do now is offer some support. You can also see that some of them are starting to branch out. That is what you're trying to achieve when we're pinching, but by sowing them early enough, and if they've had a cold enough weather, then they should start doing that themselves. Doesn't mean that we can't pinch them out, but it definitely isn't needed as much as it would be otherwise. So for now, we're just going to support these ones, but we will have a look at pinching out and where you would do that as well. You're going to want some bamboo skewers in order to support them now, and a little bit of string just to tie them in. So we're just going to pop the skewer into the middle of the pot. Grab yourself a little bit of twine, just enough that you can tie it around, and then we're just going to pop these up the stick, and you can see that they're starting now to have these little tentacles, which is what holds them on as well, so they will somewhat start holding themselves into position. I'm just going to tie that round. There we go. And later on, what we're likely to see is some yellowing to the top of the leaves as they run out of nutrients. And at that point, we can add a little bit more compost to the bottom. But we do want to pop these back into an area where they're going to be protected from the frost as they have been before. I'm also going to take this as an opportunity to see whether they need watering. So this one's very light, so I'm going to give that one a little bit of water. But if there are any that have already had plenty of water, then definitely don't actually water them again. Another thing I've just seen is, even though these have been high and they haven't been on the ground at all, I have a little slug, so I will be checking for them as well. Sometimes the eggs can be in the compost, so we do want to keep an eye out for them regularly. Do remember as well, if you've got a frost predicted for tonight, then don't water them yet. I'm hopefully going to be okay. We've got around a 3 degrees, so we shouldn't have a frost, so I'm going to give them a little bit of water. This is the Rocket Grow compost, and they have been quite happy in this one as well. But this one is definitely a more compacted compost. You can really feel the weight of it, and I'm not going to be watering them today. So you can see on this one's really yellowed and it's not done very well at all. It may have got a little bit of frost. Maybe that it's very dry. The pot could have probably done with watering a little bit sooner, or that it may have just bent and got caught in the wind. However, there is a little shoot just here. So all I'm going to do is cut this one above the shoot, and it will probably actually survive. They are hardier than you think that they're going to be. This one, we've only got 2 of the 3 seeds that have actually sprouted here. This one's one I've popped in a little later, but you can see this one is branching beautifully. So that is definitely not going to need pinching. I'm just going to be tying this one in today. Only 2 out of the 4 seeds have survived of this one. And although this one's starting to branch out, I'm going to use this one as an opportunity to show you where we will pinch and how we're going to pinch these. Pinching is something we don't usually need to do as much with our winter sown ones, but many people do and find that it really helps. So we want to have at least 4 sets of our leaves before we start pinching. So 1 set, 2 set, 3 sets, 4 sets. So therefore we're going to pinch here just above that 4th one, and we're just going to gently cut near the junction, and that is all that needs to be done. That's going to encourage the branching out a little bit further down. This is something that can be done anytime from usually around mid-February till March, but it's also something that, as I said, that you could leave, and I will be leaving the majority of mine and not doing it because they do absolutely fine. But if you find that they don't branch out, then it is definitely worth pinching them, because you should get more flowers by pinching them. If you have lots that have just grown one seedling like these ones here, then one of the things that we could do is actually pop them into a slightly larger pot. So I'm going to keep the compost the same so I can continue my test on that. But you can see that the roots on these are actually really good, which is really fantastic to see. So by just popping them in together, just very gently, we don't want to disturb them too much, so we're just going to do this as gentle as possible. Knock off the compost where the roots aren't, on the side where they haven't been growing, and then just pop them in. If your seedlings are leggy, this is also something that you could do and pop them in a little bit deeper at that point. So I could definitely get a 3rd one in here. Let's see if I've got the same variety. Yeah, I do, and that's in the same compost too. A little bit lobelia seedling in this one as well. So once again, just remove the compost off the side and try to disturb those roots as little as possible and make a space in the pot for them. And then I'm just going to top this up with some fresh compost. And that's then given us what was 3 pots of ones that hadn't done too well to 1 pot of the 3 there that are a little bit stronger. And then I'm going to pop a stick in these ones as well, just to give them that little bit of support. So all I'm going to do now is go through the rest of these pots, check underneath, move any that are individual, and if they would be better to be together, and just slim down the pots really. But now what we're going to look at doing is sowing some later sowings as well. So I picked up this variety of sweet peas a little bit later, and I do want to get them in today. So I'm going to pop them into the pots that we've just used, and they will be absolutely fine sown from this little bit later. And a lot of people do them just later because they find that they don't overwinter very well. So if you have had problems with the ones that you've overwintered, then it is worth popping in a few more seeds if you've got them. So we can do these exactly the same as we have done before. So we just filled the pot with some peat-free compost. We're going to pop in a couple of holes. So for this size pot we use 3 seeds, and then for the square ones I tend to do 4 seeds. And we're just going to pop these seeds into the hole. Oh, the seeds are running away on me. There's one in there already. I need to find the other one, it just disappeared. And then just pop a seed into each of these holes. If you haven't checked out the other videos, there are tips on if you're having issues with germination as well. So do have a look at that. Found the other seed, so we've got more. And then rather than covering these seeds over, I do leave them open, and then we'll just water from the bottom, and they should be absolutely fine and germinate from there. That's all of the sweet peas finished now and ready to be covered up again. So even if you haven't got a frost, we have just disturbed them, so giving them a little bit of a cover just for the night will just give them that little bit of rest, ready to manage and fend for themselves again after that.